Thunder rumbles outside a hotel room, along with heavy rainfall, as a couple rests inside, spending their quality time. The guy takes out 2 tablets and hands over one to the woman, and the couple takes them. The guy gets up, takes a small basket and heads to a lift. The woman starts breathing heavily when she observes the room slowly turning into a forest. On the other hand, as the guy walks into the lift, it slowly starts turning into a desert, and both of them get scared in their respective spaces. The girl notices a weird man, wearing tribal outfit and long hair, walking towards her. The girl starts screaming when she sees a snake. She shrieks as it gets closer and bites her. While the guy finds himself at a very high altitude, he notices that the lift has disappeared, and he starts falling down. An emergency van stops. Dennis and Steve get down from it with a stretcher. They are the officers who take up the cases and emergencies related to stimulant overdose or related cases. They walk in a house and spot a girl acting strange. Going further inside the house, they find a person with fatal injury on his chest. Dennis starts examining the victim, while Steve gets into another room and finds a kid on the floor in an unconscious state. Steve accidentally pokes himself with an injection while checking the kid's pockets. The girl walks in and states that the kid had a substance. Steve takes out something from his kit and injects it on the kid's left hand. The kid instantly opens his eyes and gets up. As other officers and staff members join them, Dennis explains that the victim had a wound on his chest. Approximately 3-foot-long knife was used, which went all the way through, making a hole in the body. While walking out, Steve notices a coin. He picks up the old coin. Other staff members search the house thoroughly and find a small black lustrous packet with a symbol and synchronic written on it. Steve and Dennis are sitting in a garden facing seashore. Both of them are having a conversation about Dennis' second daughter, who just turned a year old. Dennis' wife, Tara, joins them and join in their conversation. While talking to them, Steve notices Brianna, Dennis' elder daughter, sitting on a rock. Steve walks to Brianna and pours her a glass of beer. They are talking when they are interrupted by Steve's phone ringing. He attends the call. A doctor on the other side of the phone is calling him to confirm the appointment for next Tuesday morning. Dennis and Steve are called to another crime scene. The person has been completely burned, and the only evidence they could find near the body was a black packet with synchronic written on it. Steve visits the doctor to get an MRI of his head done and finds out that he has a tumor in his brain. Steve and Dennis reach to a crime scene at a hotel, where they find a woman in a very traumatized state, not being able to talk. She has a snake bite on one of her legs. The woman keeps shaking as an officer explains that she has been injected with snake venom. The officer asserts that the bite belongs to a species of snakes that is not found in or near their area. As they start exploring the area, they find a dead body crushed inside the elevator passage. The staff again finds a similar black packet with synchronic written on it. Brianna walks in the house where Dennis and Tara were having dinner. Tara asks her to let them know if she is going to stay out all night. She agrees and leaves. Brianna and Dennis are playing basketball. While playing, Dennis asks her why her grades are going down. She doesn't respond properly and tells that she doesn't know what to do. Dennis and Steve go to a pub and have beer. Dennis wishes Steve a happy birthday and hands him a present. As they drive home, they are assigned another case. When they reach the crime scene, Steve finds 2 kids on the balcony upstairs. They aren't in a conscious state, and seeing their condition, Steve calls out Dennis from upstairs. Steve wakes one of them and finds out that the other kid had a heart condition. He had taken an overdose of narcotic. Steve asks the other kid if there is someone else with them who needs help. The girl states that Brianna was with them. She took the fake ayahuasca she had brought from the store and was sitting on a chair nearby. But she is nowhere to be found, and there is a packet of synchronic tablets present on the chair. Dennis calls Tara to confirm whether Brianna is at home. Tara denies, and they start searching for her. Steve goes to a store and asks for synchronic tablets from the shopkeeper and buys all the packets from her. Steve is bothered by a person who tries to buy the tablets and keeps following him. Giving up, Steve gives some synchronic tablets to him. Steve asks him to go away now and drives back home. While Dennis Prince notices of Brianna missing, he tries to calm Tara down, but she doesn't and instead yells at him. At night, Steve is sleeping when he is woken up by some voices coming from another room. He cautiously makes his way holding a baseball bat and notices that someone is there in his wardrobe. He slowly opens it and points the bat at the person who is hiding there. It is the same guy who tried buying the synchronic tablets from him. Steve starts yelling at him and asks him to get out of the house. The person is Dr. Kermani. He tries to explain that he's chemist and he created those synchronic tablets. He further explains that he creates synthetic narcotics which are similar to illegal stimulants, but the composition present is legal. He elaborates that the synchronic messes with a person's pineal gland, taking the person to a different time zone. He tries to make him understand with the help of a music disc, saying that if the disc is time, the needle on it is synchronic. But Steve doesn't understand him much and tells him that he has flushed all the packets and asks him to leave. He leaves. Dennis and Steve are sitting beside a patient in an emergency van. The person soon passes away, and Dennis asks Steve to say a prayer for him. Due to the tumor, Steve's health starts deteriorating, and he observes that he might not have much time left. Dennis gets a call from the hospital pharmacy, and they detect some amount of morphine missing. Dennis isn't aware of Steve's tumor and doubts him for the missing morphine due to his strange behavior. As they reach another crime scene, they find a person with fatal injuries, while other people around the patient are acting weird, babbling and laughing. Dennis starts blaming Steve for the missing morphine. Steve gets irritated by the accusations, and both of them get into a fight. While they fight, Tom, the van driver, stops them and pulls them apart. Steve walks back home from the crime scene and starts sipping liquor and watching news on TV, which displays a missing report of Brianna. He takes one of the packets of Synchronic, takes out a tablet and swallows it. After some time, he observes a bright light being emitted from the back, and when he turns around, his room starts turning into a forest. His surroundings totally change into a forest, with water till his ankles. He hears an alligator snarling and coming closer to him. As he takes a step back, he notices a person running towards him with a sword. As he clanks his sword, Steve gets back into his room and lands on the couch. He observes his shoes and jeans are wet and concludes these experiences are real. Steve starts to record himself and tries to convince the viewers about his unbelievable experience. He explains about the time travel pills, as he calls the Synchronic tablets. In the recording, he stands up in front of the camera and takes another pill. While he tells the viewers that his best friend's daughter went on missing after consuming, he has decided to take them and get her back, if possible, rather than dying from tumor. Then he vanishes from his room and lands in a very cold environment. He soon starts freezing. He returns exactly after 7 minutes and makes an observation that he returned back at the same spot from where he disappeared. He again takes a pill, but this time he is ready to face the cold environment. He wears some warm clothes and takes some wood with him. After a few minutes, he lands back to the Ice Age and observes that same spots take one to same place and same time zone. As he returns to the place, he sights a large mammoth walking near him. He turns back and gets scared seeing a tribal man coming closer to him with his spear pointed towards Steve. Steve tries to calm him down and tries to be cooperative by offering him the fire he made using the woods. He gets back to his room and notes down all his observations. Steve finds out that Dr. Kermani took his life. Steve remembers the coin he had found and wonders what all he could bring back and forth. To test it out, he decides to take his dog, Hawking, with him this time. As he takes the pill and touches Hawking, he ends up on a couch in someone else's house. Thinking of him being an intruder, a person charges at him with a knife. He quickly leaves the house and starts walking around in that town. He notices that he doesn't go back to his time zone, even after 7 minutes has already passed, because he wasn't present at the spot where he landed, and thus he needs to go back to the house, where that person tries to attack them. He takes another pill and goes back in that house. He sits on the couch, but forgets to keep Hawking in direct touch. Suddenly that person from before comes and tries attacking him again. He gets back without Hawking, as he wasn't in direct contact with him, due to which Hawking only came back for a few seconds before vanishing. He gets back and is shocked to find that Hawking isn't there. He gets a bit sad and notes this observation down. Steve goes back to the place from where Brianna went missing and starts a recording. He takes a pill after sitting on the same chair. He lands on a tree branch and falls from it. Close to it, he notices a fire made by some tribal people, who are worshipping it in some sort ritualistic manner, but soon start gathering around Steve when they see him. They all start grabbing him, when Steve snatches a locket from their leader's neck and starts running towards the tree he landed on. He comes back and asks the girl if she is sure Brianna disappeared from that same place. She replies she isn't sure as she was out of her senses. Steve goes to a bar, where he is joined by Dennis. They start having a conversation about their lives, and Dennis tells him that he may get a divorce from Tara and regrets his behavior towards his wife. Dennis starts crying and sobbing. Steve comforts him and takes him for a walk. While walking, Steve tells him about his brain tumor. Dennis sympathizes with him and tells him that it turned out to be Tom, the van driver, who was stealing the morphine from the hospital. As they talk further, Steve asks him to join him to visit his family's grave. He shows Dennis all the recordings he made while taking those pills. Dennis requests Steve that he wants to take the pills next time, but Steve rejects his idea and they continue walking to the garden where Brianna used to go often and had even engraved always on a rock, on which she used to sit. Both of them reach the rock, and Steve takes one of the 2 pills left. While talking to Dennis, he lands in a war zone. It is a chaos with bombing and fire raging all around him. He gets down and starts crawling through the bodies of people. He yells out Brianna's name in the hopes that she can hear him. Panting and yelling, he keeps moving. He stops for a second to rest and gets noticed by Brianna, who is terrified by the war around her and tries calling out to Steve, whimpering in pain. She gets close to Steve and both of them hug each other. Steve hands her a pill and asks her to take it and rush towards the rock. Both of them start running towards the rock, making their way through the fire and bombing. They are suddenly interrupted by a whistle. As they stop, they see a man getting closer to them, pointing a shotgun at them. The man makes a snide remark at Steve due to his color. He orders him to come closer and kneel down or he would destroy both of them. Steve agrees and walks towards him cautiously. Steve asks Brianna to go closer to the rock and sit on it. As he moves further, he notices grenade close to that man's legs. He requests the man to come forward and get him. As the man walks closer, he skips the grenade, but notices Brianna disappearing and gets scared. He steps back on the grenade and gets eliminated right there. As soon as Steve notices that Brianna disappeared, he dashes towards the rock, but is late and could only get back for a few seconds. Brianna reaches the actual time zone and meets her father. They start hugging each other when they notice Steve appearing before them partially. Dennis accepts the moment and raises his hand towards Steve for a handshake, and both of them shake each other's hands, maybe for the last time.